It's so great to see everybody here. And thank you everyone for mentioning that chat is disabled. Okay. Do not put comments in the chat in that case, but you are welcome to put them in the Q&A section and the panelists will receive them and can respond. So thanks for the folks who let me know. All right. So without further ado, we are now officially kicking off the Courageous Conversations webinar. And I want to make sure, Jana, you are recording this. We are going to record this for future use. So,
yes, it is recording.
Thank you for your patience. Okay. Courageous Conversations from Peak 2025. That is the name of our webinar. We are thrilled to have you everyone here. The theme is preparing for change on this last day of April 2025. And this webinar is brought to you by Salesforce, the Louis Calder Foundation, and Agile Cloud Consulting. So thanks everyone for joining us. We'll go ahead and move on to our thank you slide. I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I had the opportunity to participate in the peak convening this year as well as last year, and it was really a fantastic event from all perspectives, the people, the content, the environment, the music, the joy, the serious conversations. I could go on, but we are hoping to bring some of the spirit of that event here, starting with an appreciation for everyone's time. We know that you all are busy and have a lot of responsibilities, and so we appreciate you taking the time to participate in this webinar, and we appreciate the other panelists for joining as well. We have some very fantastic content for you all, and we are going to move through a lot of information and dialogue as well as the demo within less than an hour. So we are here for you. Again, please feel free to submit any questions that you have in the Q&A panel. The chat panel is disabled, but we would be happy to answer questions as they come up. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to Ursula, Kristin, and Serkan for presenting along with me. Before we get into the meat of the content here, I wanted to tell you all a little bit about Agile Cloud Consulting. I'm Marisa Lopez, and I'm the director of, or a strategic account director here at Agile, and we are a summit partner of Salesforce. Very proud to be a top tier partner working with nonprofits and foundations here in this space. I've actually been working in the nonprofit Salesforce space for more than 15 years, and the last few years here at Agile Cloud Consulting. Agile was formed in 2019, and we have a fantastic track record. We've implemented more than 500 projects, have a 5-star rating on the Salesforce App Exchange, which I would encourage folks who haven't visited the App Exchange to check it out. A wealth of information there. And we very much focus on Salesforce implementations. We also offer a variety of other services, from data analysis through Snowflake and Amazon Web Service, to social media. It's Browse Social. We do work with integration tools such as MuleSoft and other software and services within the Salesforce stack, so Tableau and Slack. And love to tell you more, but I do want to focus on something very important to me about Agile is our core values. So we value trust, we value ownership, we value partnership with folks like the other presenters that you see on this call, agility, which is really important in these rapidly changing and evolving times, and innovation, which is really the heart of being in the technology space. So we're happy to bring our values, our work with Pledge 1% and Pledge No Hate and other innovators in this space to you, and really appreciate everybody being here. We do offer several different types of services, which are articulated here. As I mentioned, our focus is really on Salesforce implementation services and support. However, we also offer managed services. We know that sometimes the folks who are using Salesforce need someone to jump in as an admin, or provide change management services or other support as you move through your transformation and your journey, and we're here for it. We also provide data services, as I mentioned. We've got very highly qualified, certified technologists on our team with just a wealth of experience, both in the Salesforce space and outside of that. So we're happy to offer that as well. And we do have a really fantastic custom software development team for other needs, such as website development that you might have. So again, really pleased to be here and in this conversation that really is at the junction of the nonprofit space as in the foundation space as well as technology. Okay, that's a little bit about Agile. And then I would like to, without further ado, have our fantastic panelists introduce themselves. So thank you again, Ursula, Kristin, and Serkan for being here. If you don't mind taking a minute to introduce yourselves, and then we will jump into your presentations.
Thank you, Marisa. So hello, everyone. I'm Ursula Stewart, and I'm the nonprofit industry advisor at Salesforce with an expert area in grant making, have been with Salesforce for 5 years and have a 35 plus year of background in grant making. And I guess that's why my hair is so white. It's been in the field for so many years. But anyway, I bring to the conversations that peer-to-peer knowledge of being in the field of grant making for so many years, and I look forward to our conversation today. So nice to meet you, and I'll pass it on to Kristin.
Hello, I'm Kristin Pazulski. I'm the grants administrator for the Louis Calder Foundation. I've been here for 6 years, and we're located in Denver, but we fund nationally. And I'm excited to kind of give a little tidbit of the presentation we did at the Peak conference specific to AI. More generally, not like related to Salesforce, although we do have a Salesforce database and about to dive into AI with that. But with that said, I'm happy to be here today, and I'll give it to Serkan.
Thank you, Ursula and Kristin. Hi, everyone. Serkan Bilgi, he, him pronounced. I'm a principal solution engineer here at Salesforce, specialized in the grant making foundation space. I've been in this space, privileged to be in this space for the last 15 years as a professional services leader and a sales engineer. Worked with many organizations hand in hand, implementing, transforming their grants management systems. Happy to be here today and share some use cases from Salesforce's Agentforce perspective. So excited to demo some cool stuff for you today. That said, Marisa, back to you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you all. We appreciate the introductions. And all three of these amazing folks did present in one way, shape, or form, or many, as is Ursula's case at Peak. So happy to have them here. As I mentioned, I'm a strategic account director at Agile Cloud Consulting and have been in this space for quite a long time, and I'm very happy to be here. Before we dive in, this question was asked in the Q&A, and so I want to say it out loud. We are recording this webinar, and we'll be sending you all a link to the recording as a follow-up within the next few days. So I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware. You will be able to share it with your colleagues and other folks also. So thank you for asking that question. All right, let's dive in. We are starting with a fantastic presentation from Kristin. Kristin, take it away.
Great. All right, let's start with the first slide. So I wanted to kind of give just a little preview or a little summary, I guess, of the presentation we gave at Peak this year in New Orleans. And I wanted to, before I start, I want to kind of say, like, I am a curious and enthusiastic AI user. In no way am I like a tech person. So this is very like for all of us who are just really curious and ready to dive in. Today, I'm going to give you a little bit about like my thoughts on AI in the moment, how it works, and then more like what to know about using in the workplace rather than like specific use cases. We can go 2 slides forward.
Thanks, Kristin. And if folks have questions for Kristin, feel free to put them in the Q&A and I'll follow up with you, Kristin, on those.
Sweet. So we're all talking about AI, but why is that? So I wanted to kind of place it in the history of technology. And when I say AI, we're really talking about generative AI. All of us have been using AI for a very long time, and it has been around for a very long time, as you'll see in a timeline I'm about to show you. But when generative AI came about and essentially ended up in all our living rooms when OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public in November 2022, the conversation started to change. And part of that is because, so I'm going to quote Ethan Mollick a little bit today. He is a University of Penn professor. He's very smart human, and he wrote a really cool book that you will get the title of towards the end of the presentation in the slides. But anyway, so generative AI is essentially what he calls a general purpose technology, which he defines as a once in generation technological advance that touches every industry and every aspect of life. And so if you could go to the next slide to kind of place that, is that there is a lot of, well, so let's place it with the internet first. So the internet timeline is a great example to show you where AI is right now. The internet started as interconnected government computers back in the 60s through the 80s. In the 90s, the general public finally got access to the internet through browsers. And a great example that will relate to AI is Mosaic. The very first public browser was created in 1993, but was shut down already in 1997. Chrome and Google didn't even exist. Google itself didn't even exist in 1998. And then, flash forward to today where everybody had the internet in their pockets. We literally can't do our work without internet. When my email was down the other day, I had nothing to do. So just kind of how it has changed through the years. Next slide. AI GPTs are kind of in that pink slot right now. So AI has been around for a very long time, but the generative AI was released to the public in 2022. It had already existed actually starting in 2016. It just didn't land in our living rooms. And while it is improving, which we'll talk a little bit later, its use in our everyday workday is kind of limited, both because of mistakes and also just the interfaces that are available to us are the mosaic of the internet. So when Mosaic came out, again, it only lasted 4 years. And in the same timeline, the Google Chrome of whatever generative AI is going to give us doesn't even exist yet, most likely. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And hopefully, especially for grant makers, our GMSs, as we'll see later with Salesforce's Agentforce, are going to be developing things that help us apply generative AI to our workday. But once again, it's still kind of limited. Next slide, please. Okay, so how does AI work? I had a great example in March when I attended a workshop that AI is like talking to your friend about traveling, where the conversation is interactive and adjusts to what you're talking about, and where doing regular searches is like reading a travel book. So that's kind of how AI is able to communicate with us. Next slide. And while it sounds human, it's really important to remember that AI is a series of tokens, which are numbers. So AI will take a sentence like the promise of large language models is that and they assign each word and sometimes parts of words a number, understands how frequently those numbers follow each other, and then produces sentences. So while it sounds human, it is using numbers. And in a previous iteration of the slide, I said it's talking in math gibberish because it's literally just putting together numbers, and it sounds like words to us. And then it understands the frequency of that. So the promise of large language models is that they is 62% of the time followed after that collection of numbers and words. But there's also randomness built into AI, generative AI. So sometimes it will choose that 11% will. And I will illustrate that for you in the next slides in a fun way. If you could go to the next one. All right, so I put these sentences into AI, which are are a common song lyric, idiom, famous quote, and nursery rhyme. And what I expected was to get the common end of those sentences. But if you go to the next slide, you'll see what we actually got. The sun will come up and paint the sky with gold, whether you're ready for it or not. Which, was a really weird, pretty, and kind of got dark interpretation of that sentence. Barking up the wrong tree won't get you any closer to what you're looking for. That got the idiom correct, but, expanded on it. A penny saved is a penny that can one day grow into something greater. I was looking for earned, for like the famous quote, so kind of got the vibe, but didn't get that exact quote, which was surprising because that quote is very famous. And then the nursery rhyme, it got correct. So just to show that AI is, learning from us and taking words and understanding how frequently they follow each other, but sometimes it's also random. Next slide, please. All right, so if you're going to use AI in the workplace or use it for anything, it's important to remember a few things. I have 4 little just heads ups. The first one is bias. So AI ate the internet. Generative AI ate the internet with everything that comes with it. If you've ever been on Twitter, back when it was Twitter, or Reddit, you understand what I'm talking about, probably. That there isn't always the most truthful and clear and unbiased language on there, and AI did accept all of that. It also took years and years of history that might not reflect our world today. So a great example that Moloch has given in the past is if you ask AI for a photo of a judge, 97% of the time it'll give you a white male. Current day, 34% of judges are women. But AI is looking at, generations of data. So it is seeing the present as it's not reading the history as history, it's reading the history as this is the way the world is. So in doing that, it has a different worldview than we do based on, how it ate the internet. Next slide. It also hallucinates, which if you haven't heard the term, is essentially the term for when AI gives you the wrong answer. Because generative AI wants to answer your question, even if it doesn't know the answer. It will just give an answer, but it will give it so confidently that you don't know that it is just making it up. A great example was the lawyer who created an argument based on precedences that did not exist. And he had no idea. And when he went to make his argument, the judge found out, and obviously he got in trouble. And in fact, the hallucinations are getting worse. So the latest ChatGPT release, which I think was released this month, was accurate only 48% of the time, according to a Washington Post article. And when it was asked questions of fact. And it will hallucinate more than the latest OpenAI ChatGPT version, the new version will. So all that to say, the warnings I'm giving you in a little bit are based on this. Next slide, please. There's also privacy issues. I read an article by Louisa Jaworski. She is the founder of an AI technology academy for learning about AI. She says companies' approach to privacy is privacy by pressure, as opposed to just being aware, just prioritizing that. Generative AI learns through the prompts and the languages that you put into it. And in order to do that, the companies often have to store the prompts and the languages in order to learn from it. So you just want to be aware of what you're putting in because it is likely to store it. And then the last one, next slide, is the ecological impact. There's a lot of conversation about this right now and some conflicting opinions, but just know that because of the servers that support AI and allow it to do what it does, there is an ecological impact. So be aware of that and, educate yourself about that as you use AI into the future. All right, next slide. So Ethan Moloch gives a few examples of how to approach AI in your work and how not to. Because it hallucinates, because it has bias, he suggests to use AI where you need a summary, a first draft or a summary, but you really have to work on it afterwards. Where you already are an expert, so if it is hallucinating, you can catch that. AI is really good at giving a specific perspective. So if you already have language that you know is fact and you want it to be written for a third grader, or you want it to be written for a more academic audience, you can ask it to do that, but then you're keeping the same information. So you're less risk of hallucinating. And then where you want a second opinion, AI is super fun to brainstorm. I have done that a lot. And where not to use it is where very high accuracy is required. Just if it has to be perfect, don't use AI. Which should be all the time, but where the effort is the point. A great example is like if you're doing a review of yourself for work, and where you don't understand the failure modes of AI. So again, like I just kind of gave you a little overview there, but it would be worth looking into, especially if you're using a specific one. I talked about ChatGPT a lot, but there's other ones out there, and you want to understand, where they are failing. All right, that's it. Just a quick note about the next few slides, which you'll receive. That's my contact information. And then next slides, there's sources for further learning, including Ethan Mollick's book. And on the next slide, other considerations for grantmakers to be thinking of as we approach AI, including that our grantees are using it, how we want to maybe fund it, and that we are going to be using it for grant analysis in the future. And with that, I will pass it on.
That was fantastic, Kristin. Thank you so much. As a reminder, folks will get this recording. So I know that was a lot of information on those slides, but we're happy to share it with you. Kristin, there is a pretty detailed question in the Q&A, but that might be something for follow-on. So I think it's a little too much to cover here, and I want to continue on with the presentation, but you're getting lots of kudos. So let's keep going. Very, very excited to segue to the amazing Ursula Stewart to talk about what's top of mind here. Thank you, Kristin.
Thank you, Kristin. That was really a fantastic presentation. I really enjoyed it. And what it actually tells us is that the integration of artificial intelligence into the professional sphere is no longer a futuristic concept, but it's a reality and prompting a necessary shift in our perceptions and approaches to work. And so I just want to take a little bit time to just focus on that, talk about that, talking about embracing AI as a new colleague and what does that mean for us right now. So my own experience when I co-presented change management, and changing the narrative at the Peak 2025 with Ideals 42 provided a framework for understanding this transition of AI as our new coworker. And our session's emphasis on the power of narrative in driving successful change management directly informs my perspective on integrating AI into the workplace. And I should say, I say my perspective. And the way we frame this introduction, the narrative we construct, will significantly influence our acceptance and effective collaboration with AI. So consider a fundamental question. Are you truly prepared for AI to become an integral part of your daily work life? Let me ask that question again. Are you truly prepared for AI to become an integral part of your daily work life? The question isn't a hypothetical scenario years away. It's a near-term evolution demanding your consideration. So to illustrate this, imagine a standard HR announcement. Picture receiving an internal memo introducing a new colleague set to join your team in just 2 weeks. This individual boasts an impressive academic background, including a PhD in library science and linguistics, coupled with an extraordinary capacity for memory and a comprehensive understanding across a vast range of topics. The memo explicitly describes this new team member as a highly valuable asset to the organization. Faced with this information and the soon arrival of this remarkable individual, it's natural to begin forming a mental picture of what working alongside this coworker might entail. Several questions are likely to surface. Will their intellectual capabilities surpass your own? Will their methods of operation dictate changes to your established workflows? Will they possess the ability to identify and highlight errors in your contributions with unparalleled accuracy? Will the need arise to establish clear boundaries to define roles and responsibilities? And mostly, will their perceived value to the organization overshadow your own, leading to concerns about job security or the future of your role? Well, before this new colleague even walks through the office doors for the first time, a preconceived narrative, often tinged with apprehension and certainty, begins to take shape regarding this new working relationship. Well, I have a secret for you, and I'm going to share it with you. This internal dialogue and the associated anxieties bear a striking resemblance to the concerns and reservations I've encountered in discussions surrounding the broader integration of AI within the workplace. The fear of the unknown, the potential for disruption, and the questioning of one's own value are common threads. However, let's consider an alternative narrative. What if that introductory memo presented a different perspective? What if HR said, what if it described this new coworker not as a potential disruptor, but as an entity that thrives in environments characterized by collaboration, support, and inclusivity? What if the memo requested your active support in ensuring their successful integration through a series of deliberate actions? And these actions might include proactively providing essential information regarding team members' roles, individual responsibilities, and the overall organization structure. Clearly and comprehensively explaining the nuances of the organization's culture, including both explicit policies and implicit norms. Offering dedicated training, ongoing guidance, and constructive feedback to facilitate their understanding and contribution. Actively including them in team activities, both formal projects and informal interactions to foster a sense of belonging. Clearly articulating team goals and outlining how their role contributes to the broader organizational mission and objectives. And lastly, taking deliberate steps to ensure they feel like a valued and integral member of the team from their very first day. Well, most organizations already have well-established onboarding processes designed to integrate new human employees into their organization's culture, their specific roles, and their overarching work of the organization. These processes often involve mentorship, training sessions, introductions to team members, and resources to navigate the organization's internal systems and expectations. Which leads to my question to each of you. Is the process of onboarding AI fundamentally different from the established protocols for welcoming a new human colleague? In my opinion, the answer is no. In fact, I firmly believe that the same level of care, thoughtful consideration, and proactive engagement should be applied when welcoming AI, as would be the case for any next coworker. But consciously shaping the narrative, or by consciously shaping the narrative and implementing supportive onboarding strategies, we can mitigate fears, foster collaboration, and unlock the immense potential that AI offers to augment and enhance our collective capabilities. And you're probably saying, this is a lot of work. But the good news is engaging with your new AI colleague doesn't have to be a solitary journey because you have organizations like Agile Consulting that's standing out there and they're ready to assist you in starting this process. So I ask you to reflect on my recommendations, and I thank you for your time. But before I hand this over to my colleague Serkan, who will share live demos of AI as a coworker, I just wanted to share just one more bit of piece of information with you. And that is, if you're interested to learn more about Ideas 42 and the narrative framework that based my opinion on AI as a coworker, join us for a webinar on Wednesday, July 30th, from 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time, because as a part of Peak Second Line Learning Series, we will be presenting the entire framework with a real-life use case study to go along with it. So feel free to reach out to me to learn more about this exciting series of the Revisited Peak 2025 sessions. And now, let's pass the presentation baton over to Serkan. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ursula. There have been great sessions at Peak, which I got to learn from Kristin. Again, really appreciate the session that you've provided at Peak as well, and Ursula's change management session too. My contributions to Peak was from Salesforce's user group perspective, and I actually got to demo Agentforce to a full house group of folks in the room with us. So what I want to do today is really distill that into a little bit of the use cases that we covered there and look at it from an Agentforce as your colleague perspective. So I'm going to be covering most of the internal cases here today. But what I also want to do, which I didn't get to do at user group, is to go under the hood and show you how Agentforce thinks and what happens when you put in a prompt through a very nice builder interface that we have as part of the Agentforce tool. So I am going to start sharing my screen now, and then we're going to kick things off from there. Just a quick thumbs up, Marisa, if you can see my screen, Grantmaking homepage. Excellent.
Looks great. Thank you, Serkan. Thanks.
All right, folks. You might be already familiar with Salesforce. We're looking at our Grantmaking app inside Salesforce. In order for Agentforce to work, you do not have to have, it's not a requirement to have Grantmaking, Nonprofit Cloud for Grantmaking. It is a platform tool. So if you are using a variation of Salesforce Grantmaking solutions like grants management, outbound funds, or even a completely custom build, you would be able to access Agentforce regardless. And most of the cases that I'm going to show you today are leveraging standard out-of-the-box actions that come out with Agentforce when it's enabled, turned on in your instance. The very first thing I'm going to call your attention to is our Agentforce logo up top here. This will enable our employee agent for us so that we can start talking to our data. We can start conversing with our agent who has certain roles and responsibilities predefined already through the initial setup. So once it's been enabled, you'll notice that there'll be some text here that's telling you, hey, I'm Einstein. You can configure some of that text. But one thing that I wanted to call out is as I navigate through the system, since Agentforce is context aware, it is going to recognize where you're navigating in Salesforce, and it's going to suggest certain actions, recommend certain quick actions that you can take. Since we're on an accounts list view, it's showing me, hey, show me latest updated accounts, show me accounts that are created in the last 6 months. So these are standard actions that come with the platform, but it is super easy to create your own custom actions where you can now have Agentforce suggest, show me grantees that have submitted applications in the last 6 months and things like that. So you can tailor these standard actions to one, say what you wanted to say, and two, what you wanted to do, basically, what kind of data you wanted to access. As we navigate throughout the system, we can go to different list views. you'll notice that the action has gone away. If I had any individual application specific actions configured, then those would show up here. AI as your coworker or your colleague, because Agentforce has access to your data, your CRM data, and whatever additional external data you may want to connect to, it can do a lot of the things, a lot of the mundane tasks or tedious, laborious tasks that you currently have to do. Talking to numerous foundations the last 6 months to last year, there are a lot of low-hanging fruit use cases that we've identified that foundations are coming to us about. Some of those are bundled around summarization of data or getting over that blank page syndrome where you need to write an email or write executive summaries and things like that. So those are two main categories we see. There's also a lot of interest into dipping into a knowledge base. May that be inside Salesforce through knowledge articles or cases, or you might have external documentation stored somewhere in, Box, SharePoint, wherever else, connecting those to make sure that agents have access to that knowledge base to distill information, summarize, and generate information that is useful for your employees and also your external communities, such as grant seekers, external reviewers, donors, if you're a community foundation and you have donor components. So agents can be basically made externally available to really scale those operations so that you don't have to get emails and questions about where's my application status or where's my check or what are some of the FAQ items, like how can I change my password, how can I change my organizational details. So all of those things can be offloaded to an agent on the external side. For today, I'm going to stick with the internal interface, so this is going to be the main interface we're going to be looking at. Let's start with a couple of simple use cases here. I may want Agentforce to remind me certain things. So I could basically ask, hey, can you create a task for me? And then it's going to, first of all, based on your prompt, it's going to ask you certain things, right? It can prompt you back, hey, I'm about to create a record in the system. Can you provide the following details for this task? So I can quickly say, I would like to have a check-in with grantee Isabella. I need to discuss a potential potential on-site visit with them. You'll also notice I put in tomorrow in there so that it is, again, context aware. It knows what day today is. So it is putting the due date to tomorrow. You can use those natural language prompts, change it to next week, change it to next month, things like that to streamline that record creation. You'll notice that I was able to do that while I'm looking at, I'm not looking at any records here, but I can also specify, what records I want this task to be associated. But I can basically do this from anywhere. As I'm reviewing an application, I may remember that I may need to, have this check-in with Isabella. So I can just talk to my system instead of clicking buttons and entering details. I can just have that conversation. The other use case that we've seen here is really about summarizing. So, the prompt interface is great. I'll show you a couple more examples. For instance, let's say we wanted to see applications from a specific organization. Again, I'm looking at a list view. I can search this list view, or I can look at a specific report. I can go at this from different angles is basically what I'm trying to say. But now you have the ability to converse with your data. I can just say, show me the applications from Brighter Days Foundation, right? And once I do that, it's going to show me the applications that came in from this organization. Let's give it a second there. It's retrieving that information right now. And then we can see that there are two applications that came in. The first one is denied. The second one is in verification process. So I'm curious what that application is about without clicking into it and then changing what I'm looking at on my screen. So I could say, hey, can you summarize the second one for me on the list? Again, leveraging a natural language element here saying second one without having to give ID and things like that. It can go through this and then it can quickly summarize this application for me and what it's about. So I can remember, hey, okay, yeah, they did ask for under $100,000. So maybe our VP doesn't need to be involved. So we can just go through this with with a regular board review, things like that. So it can really surface information for you without being limited or bound by navigational preferences you might have in the platform. It can also shed light into your blind spots. So one of the things that I've done throughout the years is building reports or widgets in grant making systems to make sure that folks have due diligence at the top of their mind. So having reports that shed light into some of your blind spots. For instance, show me my disbursements that are overdue. They are scheduled and they're in the past scheduled date. And I'm also telling it, hey, can you also display the scheduled amount for me? So you can tell the agent to do certain things around when you return results for me, show me these fields and things like that. And then again, going back to Kristin's point, as long as it can understand what you're saying and reason with it in a way, it will return the record back with the information that you ask for. So now we're seeing there are 5 payments here. I can also view more, which now is going to reload my page and show me there are actually 6 funding disbursements that we have scheduled but haven't paid yet for some reason. So now I can take this list and I can action it specifically, making sure that things don't fall through the crack. Maybe there was an integration problem or something happened. I can investigate this case here. Now, I've been doing a lot of what I call demo magic here. So I'm not actually typing all of these here. I do have a keyboard shortcut tool that I'm using for these demos. So when I click a shortcut, it actually types out all of those things. Typing those things out can be quite challenging and also time consuming. And if it's something common that you're asking the agent to do, it might be a good idea to turn that into either a quick action or maybe even put it into a component that I'm just going to show you now. So we can see an application here, came from our Brighter Days Foundation. They're asking for some money. But what I can show you on the right-hand side is we have a component for application summary. And as soon as I click got it, it's going to run that prompt, canned prompt that I've pre-configured so that it can do all these things that I want every application to be done for me. So what has it done for me? It's summarized the application. It's giving me a summary of the application. It's also giving me an organization summary. So it's pulling information from the organization account, giving me all of that info. And I can edit this, I can copy this, I can ask AI to regenerate this. As you can see, there are a lot of options that are available to us. This is a pre-canned prompt that I wrote, and I don't do this in many of my demos, but I just wanted to quickly show you how that actually comes to show up on that prompt component. So I'm basically telling Agentforce that I would like you to be a grant manager at a foundation. Your job is to triage the individual applications. And I'm just elaborating. I'm just grounding my prompt. And I'm doing this once. And now I have the ability to, even put in formatting stuff, break the summary into 2 subheadings. The first subheading must read application summary. And then in the summary, leverage the fields that are included in the individual application. So you now have control over which fields are going to become part of the summary. You may want to omit some of the internal use fields, or there might be some fields that are not relevant to you that you want to use in your executive write-ups. You have the opportunity to say, I would actually like to use a specific application name field from the application object. And then my second subheading is organization summary, and I want it to be bolded again. And I picked and chose whichever fields I want from the organization included in my summary, right? So I can have an organization mission statement field, and I can ask it to reduce it down to 100 words. So I can do a lot of those things, which then resolves into a specific prompt. So we are not we are still using the generative components of, as you can see on the right-hand side, I'm using OpenAI. So we're resolving this prompt with the merge fields, and that's turning into one giant prompt that we're going to pass on to ChatGPT in this case, and it's going to respond back with the generative. So you are not hard coding what the response is going to be. You are creating what the prompt is going to be and what variables are going to be merged into it, resolved into it. So it's a very cool concept because you're still leveraging the LLM, the large language model, and the generative native nature of whatever model you're using. You'll see there are plenty of them that come as standard, and then you can also connect it to other models that you may have. So there are a lot of flexibility there. We want to give you choice. And you'll notice this is per prompt. If I had another specific prompt that was around consolidate reviewer feedback into 150 words that's presentable to a grantee, I might be able to use another model for that. Maybe I have a specific model that's trained on using certain keywords and things like that. So the name of the game really is the choice here for you to have a seamless one-stop experience through the Agentforce interface. But behind the scenes, it's doing a lot of things to make sure that it's finding the right actions and right prompts to show you what the user needs to see. There are other things that we can get it to do on a more simpler case. As I'm reviewing this application, I can say, you know what, draft an email, summarize the purpose of this application, thank them for submitting their application, wish them success in their search for funding. So I can get around that blank page syndrome, like I said before, and then get the Agentforce to get started, draft an email for me, which then I can either send it from the system directly. I can massage it. I can ask it to regenerate, change certain words and whatnot that it has used in it. As you can see, it's created a draft for me. I can give it a feedback, copy the draft, or even send the email directly from the system. So these are some of the use cases that you can leverage Agentforce quite quickly as an internal like a coworker that has joined your organization. There are other use cases that can be custom built for you. So we can actually custom build a scenario where you're asking the agent to create an application for you, maybe invite a grantee. So we could actually ask it to create a new, let's see, help me create a new application. And then at this point, it's going to ask me a couple of things, right? It's going to ask me provide some details to create a new application. It's thinking right now. Oh, just testing with that. So let's clear our history and then start that again. Again, because it's context aware and I already used that prompt, it's remembering just 10 minutes ago what I was testing. But once I clear my cache with Agentforce, I can now start a brand new chat with it. And it's asking me, hey, I understand you want to create a new application. Give me the bare minimum that you wanted, you defined, and then I can just go ahead and say, the organization is Climate Pioneers. It's going to be a general operating support grant for Isabella Miller for $25,000. This is something custom that I've created. It's leveraging a simple flow. That's it. And then I created a custom action, which now is going to be a great segue into under the hood for this, how this actually works. It created a brand new application for me. As you can see, I can click into it, and now I have that new application here. I can do more plumbing here. I can connect it to a funding opportunity. I can add different contexts here. I can, make changes here, or you can tell the Agentforce to add those fields. So as part of my prompt, I can also say, hey, make sure when you're creating it, also include an estimated total number people served to 50 or something like that. So you can pick and choose how that works. I've just switched over to under the hood here. Just wanted to show you a couple of cool things and how Agentforce thinks. I'm doing air quotes here. We have something called Atlas Reasoning Engine. This reasoning engine really connects the dots between what has been configured in terms of topics and actions, and what the user is saying. So it's a matchmaker to make sure that what you're asking is responded with the right action. There are a couple of out-of-the-box ones like account management, case management. I've created one for questions about grants. So that's a main topic that I've defined that my agent is going to be an expert at. I've created the description. So when a user asks about the grant or an application, this topic is to direct the conversation at individual application object as well as other linked objects. So there are a lot of things that I can tell in terms of defining what this agent and this topic is supposed to do, what the scope of this work is. So your job is to interact, and I can give it all sorts of different interactions. I can say, do not declare your intent. I can say, if a user asks for a summary of a single grant, you must use a specific action. So there are a lot of things that I can tell it in plain language, right? It's not like a developer behind the scenes writing these things. I went ahead, tested a couple of scenarios, and then I found out that, hey, it's not using enough bullet points. Maybe I wanted to use it sparingly. Only key stats. When asked about grants, assume the questions about the individual application objects. So you can really get it to short circuit some of the, or put in shortcuts for its brain to make sure that when you ask about a grant, it's going to know which object that means. So that's just the general. And then from there, we can define what kind of actions this agent can take, which is really cool. One of the actions that we saw was the creating an individual application action, which have configured a simple flow to be able to do that. So let's see if I were to ask one of our prompts that we just recently used, the applications from Brighter Days. Let's do that one. So if I do that, because now I'm in developer configurator mode, when I put the prompt, it's actually going to demystify the whole thing, and it's going to show me what how Agentforce is connecting the dots between, what is Brighter Days Foundation? What are applications? What does that mean? I'm teaching my agent what these things mean. So first of all, it's picking the topic, questions about grants, because I asked about an application. From there, it used an action called identify record by name. So I gave it a name, Brighter Days Foundation, and then it was able to find that it's an account, a Salesforce account. And then it was able to query the records, meaning the applications. So show me the applications from this organization. And it was able to find all of those additional applications that are linked to this organization, right? And now there's a response that's coming back from the agent. There are a lot of things that we can do here. Because I am currently activated, I cannot edit this, but there is a setting. If I were to deactivate this, we can actually start editing these things, and I can configure what the response should look like, right? Currently, it's just giving me a standard 3-field response per application, but I can say, when someone asks you about applications from an account, I want you to show them the funding description or executive write-up and things like that. So going forward, your agent is going to show that additional information for you when you ask for it. And this is how you leverage this tool in a way that if there are common queries that you're wanting to ask Agentforce and the response that you get is not enough out of the box or initially, there's always finessing capabilities available for you to go in and then make these changes to make sure that the agent responds in the way that you want it to respond, in a format that you want it to respond. I didn't ask it to include hyperlinks to the records, but it already knows that, hey, that will be something neat for users so they can click on it. So it is including these hyperlinks there. There are a lot of other things to do. I would highly recommend going through our Agentforce trailhead, become Agentforce champions. You will be able to spin up your own org and then get your Agentforce working. There are great trails that explain all of these things and allow you to actually play with it. So I would highly recommend doing all of those to get more familiar with this very cool technology that connect to your CRM, to your grant making data and external data sources. to become the supercharged coworker that you can have who saves you a lot of time. That said, I am going to look at Q&A for a quick second.
That was a lot of information in a short period of time. Thank you, Serkan. There's a couple great questions actually from our friend Kimberly. So you're welcome to jump into the chat there. And we are going to, at the same time, wrap up. So that was a lot of information. It was a fantastic demo. I really enjoyed the peek under the hood, as we call it. Serkan, thank you so much. Kristin, fantastic overview, background, history. Ursula, I love how you tried AI into being a new coworker. That's, I think, the reality that we're all facing. So really fantastic words of wisdom. I wanted to thank everybody here for participating in this fantastic presentation. Thank you so much to our presenters, to Serkan, to Kristin, to Ursula for imparting all this wisdom. I really enjoyed listening to this myself. As a reminder for everybody here, this session is recorded and we will be sending it to you as a follow-up. And if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to me directly. Here's my contact email and phone number. And even if they're for someone else on this webinar, I'm happy to redirect them. So really appreciate any outreach anyone wants to do. Check out the Agile Cloud Consulting website and have a really fantastic afternoon. Thank you so much. Bye.